Halo 3, considered one of the greatest video games of all time. It wrapped up the original Bungie trilogy beautifully. It broke the record for most video game copies sold on opening day. It was also the best-selling game of 2007 in the United States. I've beat this game dozens of times, and after many sob-sessions, when witnessing the death of the beloved Sargant Johnson, I finally decided that it was time to find out. Can you beat Halo 3 with only a needler? There's some major obstacles in the challenge, such as dealing with the Scarab tanks, killing brute chieftains who are, for some reason, invincible to the needler, and destroying the reactors on High Charity. So you're definitely gonna wanna stick around to see how I get past these problems. It's our first day back on Earth in a long ass time, and so far it hasn't been a nice visit. We fall for over 2 kilometers, but it's okay, cause Master Chief has plot armor, so we're a-okay. Johnson has to remind us that putting things in strangers' mouths isn't very progressive. Even though I would come to rely on my allies to help me out, it was pretty apparent to me that they should only be used as a last resort, because they seem to think that shooting a brute only after his shields have fully recharged is the best way to kill them. Although the Needler kills anything in 7 shots due to the Super Combine explosion, it's not practical to kill everything we encounter because of a few reasons. First of all, the Needler only has 19 rounds in a magazine, which is the smallest capacity for a Needler in any Halo game. Secondly, ammo is scarce. Brutes and Jackals never wield Needlers, and most grunts and drones mainly wield plasma pistols. On top of that, when an enemy drops a Needler, it's usually only a small amount of ammo that we pick up. Luckily, there's weapon caches that have Needlers, but they aren't nearly as common as literally any other weapon in the game. So far, the odds were against me. This is the first difficult section of many. Johnson's Pelican crashes, and it was my mission to find and make sure that this beautiful man was still breathing. And that is when my Halo 2 Sniper Jackal PTSD kicked in. Immediately, I knew this Sniper Jackal would be as irritating as my hemorrhoids, so I became a fish and failed successfully at killing him. Unfortunately for him, killing Covenant never gets old, so I had to finish what I started. Between Johnson and I were a lot of brutes and grunts, and a forest full of Sniper Jackals. Arby and I killed everything, and then we crashed the Jackal's party. I just had to use the Arbiter as bait, kill a thug or two, and we were through the forest faster than 343, destroying the franchise. You want to know why this next section is so hard? I'll give you a hint. How do you spell piece of shit? JACKALSNIPERS. Needlers don't have great range, and on top of that, brutes and grunts are constantly bombarding you with alien gunfire, so these sections always cause unhealthy amounts of stress. When I moved up to this nice boulder, I realized it was my key to getting through this section and getting one step closer to the site of badass. I used the rock to get up to this position and took out everything that got in my way. Operation Save the Sarge was now a go. This next part took me a whole hour, and you know why? It wasn't because of the amount of troops or Sniper Jackals. Death is to be expected on a Needler only run, so I wasn't upset. However, in Halo 3, you cannot stick brute chieftains with plasma grenades or spike grenades. The same thing is true for Needler needles. The needles don't damage chieftains in any way except for taking out their shields. I used my entire stash of ammo on the chieftain and he would not die, so I had to find another method to kill him. The Arbiter was off taking a giant shit for all I knew, so we had to face this section alone. I noticed that when I was on this side of the fence, the chieftain would just stand there and stare into my soul. So I came up with a theory that if I could get him on this side of the fence, he would do the same thing. To my surprise, it actually worked. We break the homie out of jail, our teammates kill the remaining Covenant, we take a Pelican, and I beat the first level. We arrive at an underground base in the ruins of New Mombasa, and Truth has us in his sights. His army of Covenant has destroyed most of humanity's remaining ships. Truth thinks that the Covenant can kill everyone in this base, including us, but our enhanced super soldier awesomeness, combined with the boost in morale from Johnson, the Arbiter, and all the Marines pumped to be fighting by my side, is too much for the Covenant to handle. Our first task is to take out the Covenant troops in the hangar. As I step out the door, I start praying to the big-tittied goddess of mercy so my Marines will live long enough to kill a grunt that is wielding a needler. The big problem here is the brute and the jackals with carbines, because both would quickly kill my men and I. I made a barrier out of forklifts and shields to protect my men, and then I would move up, grab a needler, and kill the brute. My allies conquered the clutches of the carbine cucks, and we arrive at the hangar. I was expecting a not so fun time, but it was actually super easy. A lot of grunts had needlers, so I would kill the brutes while my men focused on the grunts and jackals. And now that some of my men had evac'd, it was time for me to make my way back to the op center. After juggling some needlers for what seemed like an eternity, I killed the flying fucks and got new orders to save the soldiers in the barracks. I was sent into the next room alone to deal with a pack of brutes because my Marines are cowards and need me to hold their hands through every step of life. I easily killed all the brutes, except of course for the Chieftain. It looked like he wanted to show me the meaning of pain, but I wasn't looking to expand my vocabulary, so I ran away. Once I was in the barracks, I would help out where I could, but when I ran out of ammo, I just hid in the vents and distracted the brutes while Arby and the Marines killed them all. We kill all the jetpack brutes and I have to return to the op center to rearm the bomb. So I slip by the hallway of death using my sexy camo, and now comes the tricky part. Conveniently, the Covenant like to guard entrances with their backs turned to them, so I became the ultimate ninja and rearmed the bomb before they could say "Aya!" I barely escaped the room with my life, made my way to the hangar, jumped on the elevator, and beat the level. Lucky for us, we survived the elevator crash, and now I had to lead my Marines to safety. There isn't too much to be said about this level. I couldn't find a single needler in the entire mission, so every encounter I got into would play out like this. If I was in a vehicle, I would hang back and let my men kill everything from a distance, while I played dodgeball with fuel rod cannons. It was tempting to end my life because I was only on the third mission of 9, and it took me roughly 4 hours to reach this point, but I had to keep going. The sense of satisfaction at figuring out whether this challenge was doable or not was the same sense of satisfaction you get after killing a Dark Souls boss. If you don't know what that's like, imagine busting a nut times 1,000. Once I was on foot, I ran by every section of enemies until the next vehicle section began, because there's literally no way I can kill anything without my men. My next objective was to get to the town of Voi. So from here until the end of the level, I drove past all the wraiths and shitty roadblocks, quickly destroyed the road blockade, and finished the mission. Our first objective is to take out the anti-air wraiths. Once again, I had to lead the squad of Marines because they fell apart without my leadership, and one well-placed grenade. I used my men to take out the enemies in the first room so I can get my hands on a needler. When we come into the vehicles section, I used the same tactic as Savo Highway. Hang far back and let my men kill everything. The Marines attract death like a moth to the flame, so there was no reason to ever get close. Up until this point, I had high hopes for the challenge, and that is when a Scarab took a fat shit on my hopes and dreams. For all I knew, the Scarab would be invulnerable to needler needles, just like the brute chieftains were. The first time I tried taking out the Scarab was hell. They all played whack-a-mole with my testicles, but unlike normal whack-a-mole, my testicles had nowhere to hide. The longer you stand around and do nothing, the more Covenant die due to your allies killing them with rockets. So after waiting for a couple minutes, I jumped on it again and surprisingly destroyed it with my needler. That gave me more relief than 1,000 lying whores ever could. Our next objective is to take out the giant anti-air cannon to prevent my allies from becoming human debris. Human debris sounds fun, but the Sargant and I don't do bits and pieces. From here until the cannon, I gave Junior here explosive weapon privileges, and he was a champion. He killed everything from here until the end of the mission. The hunters, the brutes, the grunts. I was proud. I destroyed the cannon, Truth goes through the portal, and that concludes mission 4. Oh my mercy. What the yap yap? The Flood have figured out how to use slip space ruptures, and they crash land in the town of Voy. We just can't seem to catch a break around here. Our primary objective is to find the crashed ship and overload its engines to destroy the city, so the rest of the planet doesn't become an all-you-can-eat buffet for the Flood. I'm only gonna talk briefly about Floodgate because there aren't any needlers in this level. Your allies can kill all the Flood forms, but it takes way too long for them to do so. So I decided my best chance was to run by every fight I found myself in, and try to get to the end of the level as fast as possible. Before we get to the crash site, Johnson tells us that Cortana is in the ship, so I go in to retrieve her, but it's not actually Cortana. It's a message, and she has a solution to stop the Flood. The elites and humans prepare for an epic battle together. Johnson shows us how much of an alpha male he is, and steals this elite's rifle, which is kind of a dick move, but hey, it's Johnson. And we go through the portal to stop Truth. Mission 5 is already over. Mission 6 is a real goddamn problem. Commander Keyes sends us down to the Ark because the Prophet of Truth has landed on the surface. We ride down with Johnson in a Pelican, the hatch opens, and by looking at that view, you can already tell. This is gonna be one epic adventure with plenty of new souls to consume. My men are pretty poopy at killing Covenant, especially brutes armed with the brute shots, so I had to run by all the Covenant forces until I hit the mongoose section. For the entirety of the mongoose section, the Marine who was riding with me killed everything we came into contact with. When I got here, the realization hit me. Oh, look at that. So far, there hasn't been a single grunt with a needler, or a needler weapon cache, but I'm sure there'll be one later in the level. I swear to God, I searched every grunt I killed, and I searched every weapon cache that I found, but every time I looked, plasma pistol, plasma pistol, plasma pistol. I did the same thing in the tank section, but again, nothing but plasma pistols. And the occasional fuel rod cannon. I didn't find a needler when I went into the structure. I extend the bridge for my comrades, and once again, I found nothing but PP in the next battlefield. Let me explain how Mission 6 wraps up. Oh boy, another Scarab tank. See the problem? I had to kill it using a fuel rod cannon because there just simply wasn't a needler in the entire mission. So that was the first fail. The second fail was at the end of the mission. There's a pack of brutes, and for the mission to end, you need to kill a chieftain, 6 brutes, a couple of invisible brutes, and some jackals. But I didn't have any allies with me to take him out, so I was forced to kill everything with a fuel rod cannon once again. Johnson picks us up in a Pelican, and we beat the 6th mission. Our primary objective in this level is to deactivate the barrier that's guarding the Space Pope, so we can prevent him from causing a galactic-wide genocide.
Alright, Truth, thank you for coming to our meeting. As you can see, firing the Halo rings will cause death on a galactic scale. Do you believe us now?
Nein, 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 nein! Oh my god!
Sounds fun in theory, but if that happens, Danny DeVito will die, so we can't be having that. We get dropped off and are immediately greeted by a Covenant welcome party. Once my men kill a grunt, I take its needler and make a rain check on this battle. After running for a minute or two, I hit this loading point which despawns all the enemies in the previous section, so I go back and grab a warthog. By this point, you should already know my vehicle section tactics. Clearing out the bottom of the first tower was easy, considering that there was an abundance of needler ammo and because I armed my marine with a fuel rod cannon. When I got to the top of the tower, I realized there was a brute chieftain that I needed to kill in order to deactivate the tower. This realization stung more than stubbing my big toe on the corner of the wall. I quickly realized that if I dodge his attack and he hits a grenade stash on the floor with his hammer, the grenades can explode and kill him, as long as his shields are down. Let me tell ya, it's easier said than done. After many painful fails, I finally got the chieftain to kill himself. I deactivate the first tower and RB deactivates the second. But oh shit, the homie and his gang are in trouble, so the commander sends in some super soldier assistance. Now begins the hornet section. This part is normally really fun, but on a needler only challenge, it's tedious and more annoying than an itchy butthole. For this part, I have to once again rely on my marines to kill everything and clear an LZ. Once we were inside, it took me a while to deal with the hunters, but I was shocked when I realized that Felvedam will pick up the weapon nearest to him when he's killed. So I let the hunters kill him, and then I gave him a fuel rod cannon. From here until the lift, he destroyed every piece of Covenant ass he came into contact with. Hunters, brutes, drones, the whole shebang. At the top of this structure, I found problem number 2. There's a chieftain, but this time he has a plasma turret, and there's no grenade bundles to blow up on the floor. But then I had a big brain moment. I tried pushing the Arbiter on the elevator, but he didn't want to go. Turns out if you kill him with the needler, he gets blown away, so I launched him onto the elevator, and I was successful. He was kinda shy, so I had to push him towards his new friends inch by inch. He killed all the brutes, and we deactivate the tower, but then the flood crashed the party. Arby and I were fascinated by this trapped flood form. Personally, I find zoos inhumane, so I set it free and made my way to the vehicle section. I drove past everything until we get to the hornets. This part took about an hour, but it was just trial and error. There's a couple of needlers on the ground back here, but they despawn when the scarabs come, so I picked up all the ammo, gave my marine a needler, parked in a spot so he wouldn't drive off and die, hopped in the hornet, and killed the first scarab as fast as it arrived. I ran back to Michael, grabbed the ammo, boarded the second scarab in the coolest goddamn way possible, used invisibility to avoid getting cream pied, and destroyed the second scarab. It took me a while, but yes, I killed both of the scarabs with only a needler. Luckily, I have godlike patience, and I can almost always find a solution to any problem. Almost. I tried to bring Michael with us, but he despawns. That's why they say you shouldn't name them, because when you name them, you get attached. To wrap up the mission, we team up with the Flood so we can stop Truth. The Gravemind tells us that the Prophet will be food, so the Arbiter uses his sword as a skewer. The Gravemind betrays us, I run and gun, and that's mission 7 in a nutshell. Cortana is a bittersweet mission. It's fun to kill Flood, but it's not fun to get lost every 2 seconds. We come here to finally retrieve Cortana after leaving her on High Charity back in Halo 2. Only this time, it's transformed into a Flood hive. There were needlers all over the level, so initially things were looking good. It took me some time to figure out where to go, but within a few minutes, I retrieved Cortana. It felt good to have our AI companion guiding us again, but unfortunately, she's only here from now until the end of the last mission. Now comes the part that took me 40 minutes to complete. In order to proceed with the mission, we need to destroy the reactors on High Charity to turn it into a giant barbecue. For some dumb reason, the Needler can't damage the reactor and melee does nothing as well. So I thought I was effed in the A, but once again, my brain is too big. For all 3 reactors, I would have to stand in front of them while the flood shot at me. Then I would epically dodge their gunfire, so they would eventually do enough damage to destroy the reactors. The first one took 10 minutes to destroy, and the second one only took a couple of seconds because a flood form sacrificed itself for the greater good. But the third one took a lot longer than the others to destroy. This one took me about 30 minutes for some reason, but eventually it blew up. After successfully helping the flood to dig their own graves, I met up with my alien bro and left High Charity. Mission 9, the final mission of Halo 3. Even though I failed the challenge back in Mission 6, I'm proud of how I figured out how to beat the other 7 missions with only a Needler, so either way, it's a victory in my book. We come here in the Pelican so we can activate the Halo ring, which will destroy the flood once and for all. From here until we hit the top of the structure, we have to let Arby and Johnson do all the fighting until we get our hands on a Needler. Even then, I'm a pretty shite teammate because I want to save all of my ammo for the Guilty Spark boss fight. I chill up here with the Sergeant and talk about how it would really suck if Guilty Spark went totally insane and killed Johnson. The two of them kill the rest of the flood, we head into the facility, and Guilty Spark goes totally insane and kills Johnson. If only we saw it coming. For this fight, I used all of my Needler ammo and Spark survived. I even quit the game and tried it on easy mode, but there's just no way to kill Spark without the Spartan laser. I don't count this as a fail because it's a scripted event that needs to play out in a certain way. It's almost like a playable cutscene. Call this a fail if you want, but to me, this is an exception. As I sit there, I ask myself if life is worth living without him. But then I remember that the mission isn't complete until Danny DeVito's safety is secured, so I leave the facility, do some more running and gunning, and then hop in Johnson's Warthog. Unlike Johnson, his Warthog is invincible, so for the Warthog run, you just have to drive carefully and dodge the flood forms who get in your way. After a lot of near misses and near-death experiences, we make it into the Dawn's hangar and finish the fight. Chief gets lost out in space, and we can sleep well knowing that we finished every task we set out to complete. Was I able to beat Halo 3 with only a Needler? Unfortunately, no. The Ark is the only mission where we totally fail the challenge. And again, say what you want about the Guilty Spark fight, but I don't consider it a fail. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.